It is the 1920s and everyone is having a great time.
Dancing is at its highest point. The war had ended and nothing could be better.
But that wasn't the case for these group of girls. They took what seemed to be an ordinary everyday job and it became a nightmare.
During the late 19th and the early 1920s, a company named Ondark emerged. Ondark would put their workers in harmful ways by neglecting to alert their employees of the dangers of the radium.
This led to an astonishing amount of health issues and deaths. 5 of the workers eventually sued U.S. Radium for their wrongdoings and became known as the Radium Girls. The tragedy of the Radium Girls led to the development of workers' rights and labor laws.
Radium was discovered around 180 years ago by Marie and Pierre Curie in December of 1898. Radium back then was so hard to obtain, and only a few people could extract it themselves.
The Curies felt lucky to be one of those people, and if they extract a small amount, they learn more and more about radium and what it could do.
Radium is a naturally occurring radioactive metal. When exposed to it, the element causes lymphoma, bone cancer, leukemia, and aplastic anemia. The maximum amount of radium the body could take is 0.1 micrograms.
It is so toxic that Marie Curie's note on radium in her journal are unable to be touched to this day.
In this time period, radium was viewed as a miracle cure for people fighting cancer, and it was used in products such as soap, toothpaste, medicine, butter, and cosmetics, all containing radium. Radium was so popular that it was believed to be a gift from God as prophesied in the Bible.
Ondark was a clock manufacturing company. They got their name from the glow of the radium, and since it acted as a form of light, they called themselves Ondark.
The corporation was founded in 1914 but was notorious for its operations from 1917 to 1926 in Orange, New Jersey. Ondark gained infamy from poisoning of the girls.
The corporation used radium-based paint to paint their face of the watch.
The paint that the girls would use was a mixture of glue, zinc sulfide, and radium. This caused it to glow. The radium kept the hands and figures glowing time in the dark for 12 years or more without need of exposure to the light. Inside the factory, the men would be given lead aprons while handling and delivering the radium, whereas the women wouldn't be given anything to protect themselves. According to a Northwestern University study, the women workers were trained to lip dip paint. This made the brushes pointier, allowed them to work faster, and kept radium costs low. While making the brushes pointier, the women were ingesting the radium. They were told that the radium was safe, but to what expense?
Grace Fryer, a woman who worked for Ondark and one who would become known as one of the Radium Girls, commented in an article for the Orange Daily Courier. Our instructors told us to point them with our lips. I think I pointed mine with my lips about 6 times to every watch dial. It didn't taste funny, it didn't have any taste, and I didn't know it was harmful. Not to worry, their bosses told them. If you swallow any radium, it will make your cheeks rosy.
Because the girls were told the radium was safe, they began to unwind after a hard day of work and paint their faces and create different designs on their faces with radium. The Journal of Combining History comment, Catherine Schaub felt a glow with the radium. A poor girl from New York being able to afford a better life made the girls in the neighborhood jealous.
Despite the positives, the girls got radium poisoning, which causes cell mutation, cancer, teeth falling out, and broken bones. Catherine Scrub, on a visit to the dentist, had her jaw broken by her dentist just touching her jaw with his index finger and thumb. She would eventually lose her jaw the same way. The woman working in the radium factory in Orange, New Jersey had the right to know of the dangers of the substances they were not only working with, but ingesting. Had they been notified of the risks they were taking by using the radioactive luminous paint, the woman surely would have exercised caution and many lives could have been saved.
The Radium Girls' exposure to it was turning into a deadly crisis, a part of the campaign of misinformation produced by the U.S. Radium Corporation. The company rejected claims that current and former workers with bone deterioration and other medical symptoms were suffering from exposure to radium. The corporation planted fake medical examiners to tell the girls that they were completely healthy and covered up any deaths by recording the cause as syphilis.
U.S. Radium hired Harvard physiology professor Cecil Drinker to study the working conditions. His report did not paint a flattering picture of the conditions the women were working under. However, the report that was sent to the New Jersey Department of Labor was altered, praising the safe conditions. There seemed to be an altered lack of realizations of the dangers inherent in the material, which was being manufactured.
However, in his unedited report, he stated, dust samples collected in the workroom from various locations and from chairs not used by the workers were all luminous in the dark room. Their hair, faces, hands, arms, necks, the dresses, the underclothes, even the corsets of the dial painters were luminous. One of the girls showed luminous spots on their legs and thighs.
The dial painters who filled suits and sought out help worked there between 1917 and 1927. They spent majority of each day surrounded by radium and ingesting of the radium itself. Grace Fryer quit her job at the factory in 1922, but began to notice her health, especially in the jaw region, deteriorating.
She was one of the leaders in the Radium Girls' fight for justice. Fryer and the rest of the victims of the U.S. Radium Corporation deceit died in the 1920s and 1930s from health issues of radium poisoning. On May 18, 1927, a lawsuit was filed against the U.S. Radium Corporation by a young New Jersey attorney, Raymond Berry, on behalf of Grace Fryer and 4 other U.S. radium workers, each asking for $250,000 in compensation.
Before the trial, 4 radium workers had already died. The official cause of death was syphilis, but when the removed jawbone of one of the girls was exposed to, filmed, and developed, it showed radioactivity. Her body was exhumed and confirmed to have high levels of radioactivity. Raymond Berry, attorney for one of the Radium Girls, stated in the trial, "When you have heard that you're going to die and there is not hope, and every newspaper you pick up prints what's really amount to your obituary, there is nothing else."
During the trial, 2 girls were bedridden and Grace Fryer herself could not sit up properly unless supported by a brace.
The women were too sick to even raise their hands to take the oath, and by the second hearing, they were too ill to attend. Berry and the 5 girls agreed on in and out of court settlement just days before the case was about to go to trial.
Each girl received $10,000 as well as an additional $600 per year until death. U.S. Radium would also pay all medical and legal expenses in addition to all future medical expenses.
Berry was not satisfied with the outcome of the trial, feeling that the victims did not receive the compensation they deserved. It was later discovered that the judge for the trial was a stockholder in the U.S. Radium. Walter Lippmann, the editor of the New York World, stated, "The women are dying. It's ever a case called for a prompt referring. It is the case of 5 crippled women who are fighting for a few miserable dolls to ease their last days on earth."
All 5 women died within the next few months following the lawsuit. The story of the Radium Girls highlighted the consequences of the wrongdoings of the U.S. Radium Corporation and shed light on other instances of neglect by employers around the country.
Workers' rights is an important issue in our country to this day. The United States Radium Corporation was aware of the dangers of radium, but neglected to notify their employees. Even after Cecil Drinker reported about the poor conditions the women were working in and made suggestions to improve the factories, U.S. Radium had the responsibility to not only tell its workers of the dangers of radium, but to proactively create a safe working environment.
The responsibility of looking after employees is on the shoulders of the employer.
After the Radium Girls lawsuit became a big media news, radium was no longer seen as miracle working substance. The 1938 Food, Drugs, and Cosmetics Act outlawed misleading packaging that marketed products with radium. This led to a new safety regulation in the United States.
One of the major long-term impacts of the Radium Girls was the installment of the first safety laws in the workplace. In 1933, the federal government Public Health Service demanded safe work procedures in luminous dials and watches. In fact, New Jersey currently has some of the strictest labor laws in the United States. This also led to the creation of Public Employees Occupational Safety and Health Act. OSHA requires all business owners to inform employees of any workplace hazards that may occur during their employment in the company.
These girls' suffering and death all could have been avoided. After the lawsuits and trial, Undark stopped using radium and made known the toxic nature of radium as soon as they could.
Eventually, their attempts to prevent future sickness and outbreak paid off. The Radium Girls finally won a lawsuit after many attempts.
It has been said that the women who died as a result of the radium poisoning are glowing in their coffins and will be glowing for another 1,000 years.
It took tragic events to make people aware of the effects of radium.
But many people forgot this tragic and uncertain time period.